Alrighty, so I think it's time to continue the XJ Dana 44 Extra Beef build. So far, we've taken it apart, we've cleaned it up, we've painted it, so now we gotta put the guts back inside. But it wouldn't be much of an extra beef build unless we added some extra beef, huh? So first, we're gonna put an ox locker in there, because who doesn't like lockers? And it's not any old locker. We got 33 splines, you know? Just in case the 29 weren't enough, we're going big. And to go along with those bigger slides and that beautiful locker, it's going to be, you know, a new gear set. 456. May or may not be out of a JK Dana 44. Has the name Jance 4x4 ringing any bells? So, the smart guy, Carl, that he is, has developed a kit that allows you to take the newer style JK Rubicon Dana 44 gear set, you know, the ring and pinion, and fit it inside of these smaller, like old-style housings for the Dana 44. So, you basically get gears that are quoted to be 44% stronger inside your regular housing. Tell me that doesn't sound friggin' awesome. So, the cool thing here, we are going to use a Jana K4 kit. So, that is meant for the JK44 to the standard 44. We're doing a rear ring and pinion setup. And his kit gives you all the special bearings, all the setup stuff, all the shims, and even a custom modified shim from him to do all that business. So he does the whole kit, makes it real easy, and all we got to do is put it together. So let's take a look at what comes in the kit. So over here we have the ox locker itself with our little shifty gear thing, a whole bunch of bearings. We got our ring gear bolts, we got a shim stack. I think this is what Carl did, something with the shim stack. And we got a, looks like a master install kit right there. So I think I finally got all the bearings set, organized. So we have a 26882, which I believe is the front pinion bearing, I think. And I noticed I got two of them. One says setup, so this one's got some paint on it. And I'm assuming the inside has been reamed out so that it'll slide over properly. And that one, the race to go with it, was 26823. So we got one race and two bearings, so we got a good bearing, setup bearing. It looks like for the locker, we have an LM 104949 VP, and I'm not sure if these both came in the same box or not. I just noticed they're together, which is nice, because that's a lot less figuring out work for me. So what do we got? A 104912 race. Okay, so we got two of those. I'm pretty sure those are for the carrier. And then over here should be the rear pinion bearing, because it's smaller. That's a HM88547, and we have an HM88510. So they seem to fit together. Alright, so that's what we need for our ox locker and our JK Dana 44 gears. Alrighty. And from what I understand, I'll be shimming outboard to get all this magic done. Hopefully I don't regret that. Hopefully the case spreader makes this an easier job than last time, because that's what messed me up the first time. Didn't have the case spreader, couldn't get the outboard shims in, but they were also, you know, the real thin bastards too. Okay, so just a, you know, test fit, since these are possibly, I don't know, they fit in here, that's good. Alright, here's the final package. This one took a little longer to get. Apparently the secretary took an extra long lunch break that day. So here we have our JK Dana 44 gears for a Rubicon. They are 456 to match my front. So let's take these out of the package and take a gander. Okay, take a gandery. Not too shabby looking. Look at that pinion, eh? Oh lordy, that's nice. That's real nice. Beauty. So we got some markings all up in here. Cool. Oh really? Is this double drilled too? Yeah, this is double drilled for both sizes. Cool. Alright, so these gears are noticeably thicker, which is cool. More meat, always a good thing. And there's the two pinions. So as you can see, the 456 has a much smaller head, and that's just because the gear ratio. The lower numerically, the bigger the pinion head. So, you know, when you get a 4.88, 5.13, shit like that, the heads start to get dangerously small. So that's why you gotta go bigger axles, just so the damn gear is big enough to actually take the load. But, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they look similar enough that they should fit in there fine, so that's cool. So the only real thing that I understand is, since that the gear's bigger, what we have to do is we need to move the carrier to the ring gear side more. So we're going to put all the shims on the non-ring gear side to push it back far enough to actually get our pattern proper. Alrighty, well, I think we could install gears and press bearings if we wanted to. Alright, ring gear fits too. If we come over to les instructions, we already got the carrier out, all that business. So they talk about a few things to record your stuff if you're using your same gears, but we're using new gears. And for bearing install, we have two different ways that we can do this. So over here, this shim is between the carrier and the bearing for method A, and for method B, the shim is between the bearing and the housing. Now, Carl told me to do method B, so we're going to shim outboard. So that technically makes it a little easier because we don't need setup bearings for the carrier. So what that means is we can go ahead and press our carrier bearings on. So here is das bearing. Make sure that the cone is facing out, because if you put this on backwards, you're gonna, oh good. Just make sure you put the damn thing on right way. So we want to make sure that the cage is not getting any of the pressure. We want all of the pressure to be on this inner ring. We don't push on this cage because that'll bend and break and bearings ruined. So only on this center ring. That's what takes the force. Okay, we're gonna do one side at a time. We're gonna put a little bit of diff oil on there, a little gear oil over there, and we pressy on Senior 20 ton. It's been doing good so far. All right, I just got a piece of metal here. Because I don't think that our pushy spot is big enough to actually sit on that flush. So we'll just do that. And we get our bearing all oiled up. And we're going to take her slow. Okay, so now we got contact on something, and it doesn't look like our bearing's all the way seated, so it looks like the carrier bottomed out. Okay, so we will have to find something that fits the bearing, but that the carrier can slip through to get that last little fucking 1/16 of an inch. Okay, here's the bootleg setup in order to get the bearing on just a little bit more. So we got ourselves a pipe that fits around the diameter of the inner thing, but the carrier can slide through if need be. And since, you know, this jack is always, since this press is always just the right height to not fit what you need, I'd use a thinner piece of metal. So now we're going to flip it over, do the same thing to that side, and then the burns are good. Alright, now it's time for the fun of putting the ring gear on. So, I don't know if this thing's a press fit or not, I don't know. But anyway, you just get the bolts in there. Now, something interesting about the bolts, they already got some yellow Loctite stuff on them. Take a look, eh? So I don't think we even need the red stuff. Excellent. So yeah, we're just gonna make sure that we can get all the bolts threaded. Now the interesting thing is that both the carrier and the ring gear are double drilled, but we're obviously going to use the big bolts. And the interesting thing, oh look, it actually tells you on here too. Man, they're good. Torque drive gear screws. 125 to 135 foot-pounds. So that checks out, because when I looked on the some Gearpedia website, the Dana 44 JK ring bolts get 135 foot-pounds. So that's going to be exciting. I'm still trying to work out the jig that I'm going to use to hold the damn thing in place while I put that much force on it. Yeah. But at least since we're since this has got the Loctite put in already, we don't have to worry about rushing to make sure we torque it before the damn stuff dries. I'll let you know if I figure something out, but for now we're just going to put these in, and then we're just going to work our way around to suck the gear in. Okay. So the ring gear has been drawn up onto it. I just used a little dinky impact gun over there, and you know, I'd go back and forth, kind of like a star pattern, like you were tightening a wheel or something like that. So you just worked your way up slowly until you know that it's definitely sucked on there, and then I gave her full nuts, whatever the heck that thing can actually do, just to tighten them up for now. Okay, so I finally figured out how we can tighten this thing down. Good thing we have a manual locker. So I have the collar engaged up with some pins, so it's locked into place, and then we just have our shaft and a tire. So you put your foot on the tire, and then you can pull this back, and we can get 135 no problem. Well, you know, if you're strong anyway. Okay, let's torque all these motherfuckers up. So if you got questions, make sure to check the website first, because hey, there might be an installation guide. Also, my first mission with the new axle is going to be to fucking destroy a printer. Love it. One that has a paper jam. When it doesn't have a paper jam, keeps fucking up the paper, keeps spitting out paper. Got to turn it off, turn it on. Hey, we can print out one page. And then, hey, you thought you finally figured it out with the power recycling, right? No, we're going to give you some lines. We'll give you a little hope. Print out another one. Doesn't print all the way. I printed the same thing on the same page twice. Same shit. But we do a little ink test. Absolutely perfect. Fuck you. Oh, no, wait. I got a backup printer. That one had an ink system failure that's going to require a master printer reset. Yep. Fuck you. Be faster to fucking write the thing down by hand. Anyway, so if I recall correctly, I called Carl just to see what was going on. And ow, that's hot. So we have one of these guys right here. This has got a cutout in it. You can kind of see. And this is going to go between the housing and the race for the pinion head. The reason why we're not shimming behind the race anymore is because I guess the one that he provided, it's so thin that it's a pain in the ass to get in and out and keep in one piece. So we just put this guy in instead, and then we will do the rest of our shimming between the pinion head and the bearing. So that's why we have our setup bearing. So the bearing will go on like so, I believe. And we can do all that. Hopefully this comes off easily. I don't really feel like dicking around with that a billion times. Oh, lordy. And because of the setup that I'm doing, he sent me some thicker shims. Because usually you shim inboard of the bearings for the carrier. But for this one, we're shimming outboard. And we got some thick spacers. And then we got these guys. Alright, so, and we also got a nut here. Usually, when you're putting the yoke back on, you can just use your old nut. But the problem is, since we're getting an entirely new, yoke, pinion, all that stuff, we don't have our old nut. So he provides this regular one for setting it up. And then this will be the final install one, because it's got our stakes in there to hold it in place. Okay, I should go get the yoke, eh? Alright, so here's our shiny new yoke that was drop shipped to us. Fits our 1310 bearings and fits onto... Does it fit? Fits onto that guy. Yay! Okay, cool. So I think we should have everything we need. Okay, so before we really get into this, there are just a few things that I want to go over real quick for setting up a gear for setting up a good gear pattern. So there are 4 readings that we care about. We'll start with the pinion. So with the pinion, there are 2 different readings. The first one, down by the pinion head, is going to be the pinion depth. So this right here is the pinion. This is what your drive shaft connects to right here. Okay, U-joint, pinion head. So we're going to have shims over here on the stock carrier. It was between the race and the housing. And what that does is it pushes the pinion farther into the housing. So the more shims you have, the deeper it goes. With more pinion depth, the pattern is going to go deeper into the ring gear. So if we look at the ring gear over here, when we make the pinion deeper, this pattern is going to go deeper. That means it's going to go farther down. So that's important when we're trying to set up our gears. We want that to be kind of center. Now the next part of the pinion is going to be pinion preload. And what that is it's usually going to be one, the shims are going to be higher up. And that is the resistance that it takes to turn. So if you put a socket on here and you try to spin this, the preload is how hard it is to turn without without it connected to the ring gear or anything like that. So that preloads the bearing so that it lasts a long time. Because if you don't have enough preload, then your drive shaft starts to bounce around, and that's no good. So you got to make sure you have the right amount. The third and fourth kind of go hand in hand, and that is going to be on the carrier side. So we have we're going to have shims on both sides, on this side and this side. On the stock application, the shims are between the bearing and the carrier. So you can kind of see them in there. So they do 2 functions. So one is called Backlash. Backlash is going to be how much play you have. When you hold the pinion still, how far you can click it one way and the other. So that is Backlash. That is controlled by moving shims from one side to the other. So you offset it. You're bringing the ring gear closer or farther away from the pinion. That's Backlash. And what that does pattern-wise is it's going to change heel to toe. But sometimes you can't get perfectly centered heel to toe. What you care about more is the actual backlash. It should be about 6 to 10 thousandths of play, which will be measured with a dial indicator. And the fourth measurement is carrier preload. Now that is kind of hard to measure directly. Guides will have different things. I talked to Carl, and he said that for him, once he gets a pretty snug fit and everything's set, he likes to add 5 thou on both sides. So that's 10 thou extra. And that'll give you your carrier preload. And what that means is it's going to be a lot harder to install. Now for me, with the setup that I'm doing, I'm going to need a housing spreader that opens the housing up so we can push it in a little easier since we're shimming outboard. So those are the 4 readings. And we'll go into more depth as we get there. Alright, so now it's time to look at all of our shims and figure out what they are. So the biggest ones that we have here are going to be for the carrier. Okay, so that's going to control our backlash and our carrier preload. Next up, we have the medium-sized ones over here. This is going to control the pinion depth, which is going to change your pattern from top to root. And the smallest ones are going to be for the pinion preload, which is just to make sure that the bearing is tight. Okay, so that's our 3 shims. So now what we have to do is the tedious process of going through and measuring them with a micrometer and writing down what their thickness is. So we're just going to take ourselves a little Sharpie and we're going to write our number on the side somewhere. Because when we get these shim packs, we're going to have different thicknesses, and they're going to be small. You know, some are like 30 thou, some are 10 thou, 6 thou, 4 thou, 2 thou. So some of them are really small, so you got to have something accurate. So a micrometer is a must. You can't really get away with calipers. They're just, It's better to do it this way. So we're going to go through, and we're going to write down all the numbers, and make sure when you tighten this, it's got a little clicky thing over here, so you don't over-tighten it. So you notice right here, this reading is 174 thou. Or if you're the smart guy that can read this, then do the math. I'm too lazy for that crap. I like the number readout. Alright, so once you're done, you should be able to get yourself some numbers like this. So you see we get a 178, 174, 31, 30, 10, 10, 6, 6, 4, 4. And you can also kind of tell, you can feel how much they kind of bend and get an idea for how thick they are. So I'm going to print out a few sheets if I can, if my printer wants to work with me, so we can write down our measurements and record what worked, what didn't work, you know, or backlash and stuff like that. It helps for later. You can look back in the notes and see what you did. Alright, now for this fun. Oh my lord. Okay, so I was using wire wheels and brake clean and air compressor and all that crap to get all the little bits of sand and grains and goop and muck and all that shit out of there. Now it's all over the table on the ground. Okay, so now that we have a clean work area, we can actually start putting stuff in. So the first thing is, everything fits in here real nice, and we're going to see how many shims we need for like a start pack. And just for fun, I put 2 pennies on the outside to see if anything happens. I don't know if that's... maybe it does have to go all the way to the tip. But it spins fine. So that's good. I ended up fitting the one thick shim in, but I couldn't fit the other thick shim in. So that's something. Well, alright. At least we know the thing fits. I think we can start actually setting the gears up now. Okay, so I actually put 4 pennies on there now, and you can see that back there it's starting to contact a little bit now. So that's about the tightest clearance that my housing has. I don't know if that's enough or not. I think it is. Interesting. Good to check though. Good to check. Huh. But it went the other way. Whatever. Alright, so now we can move over to the pinion side. So here is our special shim right here. You notice it's got that pocket cut out. So this goes right into here. And what that does is it acts as a sort of like a spacer, but it will stay in there permanently. Now the reason for the cutout is simple. The bearing race is going to sit on top, and if you notice now that pocket is there, so that when this slides in there, the cone has clearance. So I don't know if you can see that at all, but there's clearance in there. Alright, so that's how that'll go on, and the nice thing is this race is going to be permanently in there, so we don't have to pull that off. Now we'll be pulling off this cone instead. Okay? So make sure your surfaces are clean. I'll push that guy in there. Make sure the back of this is nice and clean. Probably put a little oil on there. We'll put that in there and we'll tap that guy in. Okay, so there you go, that's installed. That was actually a little tough to get in there, not gonna lie. That took a bit of pounding. But you can tell when you can feel that there's no gap between those. That's a perfect fit too. That's very nice. You can see where the race is on the adapter shim. Cool. Okay. So the way that I did that, I took the old race, flipped it over, put it in this pipe, put it like this. And you just put it in there. You gotta hit her pretty hard, you know. You gotta hit it like you mean it. When I first started it, I started it with that to get it centered, and then I was using this guy and just kind of moving back and forth to see if I could get it to start a little better. I don't know if it was getting crooked. And then after some really good wax on this, she really started to drop down, so... Okay. Race installed. Okay, next step is to install the setup cone onto our pinion. and recommended starting shim stack of 25 thou. So we got this Dana Focus You Fuck 30214. So we're going to do the same thing, figure out all our numbers, and then we can install. Okay, so I checked out the shim pack sizes. We have 003, 005, and 010. So when making a shim stack, you want to use the biggest shims possible, and that will decrease the variance between making a pack. So we're going to do 2 10s and a 5 to get our 25 thou. So that will go like this. It's a little wide though. Might look in a narrow pack. And then this guy goes like that. Yeah, hopefully this thing comes off easy. I don't know, I might grind a little out of it myself. We'll see. So I grinded it down for 5-10 minutes. And now it installs by hand, which is nice. And hopefully with a little bit of tapping, it should come right off. So that's good. Next, they say that you should put the rear pinion race in. So that is this guy right here. This one. Okay, so pop him out and install him same way that we did the other one. Step is to put in the tail race, like so. So the cone sticks out. Easy trick. Again, take this guy, pop it in there, and it's actually real loose up at the top. So it just fits in there. And then to get the final amount, I just got my little 2-inch pipe cap. Put that on there. And that one actually went in real easy. Just give her a couple slams with the sledge and she'll pop right in there. Easy beans. Okay, that part's good. Okay, so now we'll take this guy and we can slide it up in there. And then we can put our tail bearing on and mock this thing up. I don't think we're supposed to put in any preload shims at this point. Okay, so that bearing is going to be tight. So what I did is I flipped this down so that the yoke was on the table, and I started hitting on the pinion to try to push it in enough so we could get enough threads for the nut to engage on this guy. So that's all we did. So once we got that, this thing is a 33mm gargantuan. So I had Mr. Impact, just ooga-dooga on there. Now, we don't have any preload shims, so if you tighten this too tight, it's not even going to turn. It's going to have very, very way too much preload. So this is probably a little too tight anyway, but it's fine. So now that we have this in check, now we come onto this side, and we put this guy in here, and we start to work on things. First, we'll figure out a pretty good stack for this guy to kind of sit in there nicely, and then we'll play with the pinion from there, and you'll see. So now we got everything going on in here. Instructions recommended putting 30 thou on one side and then filling up the rest. So this doofengled mobabi is a dial indicator, and what we're doing is we're checking the backlash, how much play we have in the gear when our pinion is stationary. So you set it at 0 and spin it the other way. So if you notice, we got about almost 70 thou of play there. That's way too much. We're supposed to have anywhere from 6 to 10. So as we can tell, the backlash is too much, and we gotta move it this way. Now, to remember what the heck you did, you print out something like this. So it keeps track of all your shims, you can write everything down and figure out what you did and what you didn't do and all that. So we're gonna dial in the backlash, and then we'll take a pattern. Okay, so check this out. So we moved 30 thou over, and we got about a 22 thou difference in backlash. So I think I figured it out was like every 10 thou we move is 6. So if we move 40 over, then we should be where we need to be. But I can't do that easily. I would need like 100 thou shim, and I don't really have 100, and I don't know if all these will add up to that. So what I'm going to do, I bolted this in, so now we're going to take a pattern and see if the pinion needs to change, because changing the pinion, I think, might also change the backlash. So let's get the pinion where it needs to be first. So, take a pattern, we take some of this yellow mustard right here, we just do about at least 3 of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to spin this guy back and forth, and we're going to kind of hold the yoke under tension we obviously still need to spin the thing, but you need to have pressure. It needs to be under load in order to get a nice pattern. Okay? So we'll do that. So we got our paint applied to both sides. We got our ring, our coast and our drive side. So then we'll spin that around and we'll see what she looks like. Now for the secret touch, you just have a glove and jam it in the bottom. And that'll help hold the gear back. Put a little preload on there. Make sure to keep your hands outside the vehicle at all times. Thank you. Pipe wrench makes it a little easier to spin the yoke too. Then you put it in reverse, reverse. Seriously, do watch out for your fingers. Suck to get them fucking sucked in there. Just ask Mr. Glovey. Okay, so we look on this side, and you can tell we are way too high. So we need to go much deeper. I don't know if you can make that out, but just a little scrape there and there. Yeah, pinion depth's got to go way higher. And you notice this one, it's way on the, I think this is heel. But it can still go deeper as well. Okay. So, take this out, beat the other side out, and then we have to add more pinion depth shims. So quick tip, in order to get this bearing off, this is usually pretty tight. Get yourself a little map torch or something. Run a circle around the bearing for, 10-15 seconds. Doesn't have to get real hot. You can thread the nut on all the way so you got a better hammering surface so you don't mess up the threads. But yeah, just warm it up enough that it expands. It's only going to expand a little bit. I mean, I can, it's warm. Can't really tell with the gloves, but it doesn't hurt. So yeah, that's how you get that bad boy out. So I had a nice little chat with Carl, and he says that this stuff is all kinds of janky. So we've got a lot of problems going on. So he wants to try and see if he can bring me back down to the original 25 thou. We might need to go a little bit more, because with 45 thou, at least we were, we were on there. We weren't over the edge with that. We were just too high. But what he's going to do is make me some 80 thou and 100 thou shims for the carrier, so that we can we have some more wiggle room than this 174, because that's what's pushing us back. Is the 174, and I don't have enough to fill the gap with little ones. So he's going to get me some of them, and we'll see what things look like then. So now we wait. Good time to paint it, I guess. And he said that he thought it was really weird that we couldn't fit both of those thick shims in that he gave us, the 174 and 178. Yeah, I couldn't get anywhere close to that. This ox locker is for a JK Dana 44. He's thinking it might be thicker, and goofy him never measured to find out. So I gave him the measurement that I could fit in there, and then he cut out some more specific spacers for me. So we have 200s and 275s to try and see if that don't work. So now we should be able to slide it in and center it, and we're going to go back to the original start point of 25 thou on the pinion depth and center this and see what kind of pattern we get. Because he wasn't happy with how sharp it was, and I thought that was a little weird too. So I don't know. It's yeah, custom. And it looks like he's trying to get himself some brownie points. I noticed that there was a J-Flater kit in here. I'll have to look at what that is. Looks like something to help deflate the tires. Nifty. Well, thank you, sir. Alright. Same shit. Start putting it all together and see what kind of patterns we get. Okay, so here's the readings right here. This actually turned out really nice. So I just did 120 on each side. And the pinions, the initial depth that he said, backlash of 7. That's right on the money. Should be between 6 and 10. So Here I have side 1, because I don't remember which ones they're called, and I don't feel like saying them the wrong way. Okay, so you see this is way off to the side, and it could be deeper. So to get this going on here. So yeah, we definitely want more pinion depth. And then this is the other side over here. Again, more depth. And that should at least center the pattern. So we'll see what we get. Okay, so now this is what we're looking with. I added, another 20 thou onto the depth over here. So that's what we got. So I added 20 thou here, and then I moved 10 over to help the backlash, so that our backlash was still within spec. So now we're at 10, which is still good. Our pattern's a little high, but at least it's centered. So we'll start on this side. So that's what that side looks like. Could be deeper, I guess. I mean, I thought we were supposed to land on the middle, but I don't know. If I saw anything working on the last time, we're not going to get the middle. It's going to be a little high. And then here's the other side. So it's still pretty middle. This one on the bottom, I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. But I don't know if you can see that very well. I don't know. It's a pattern. Maybe I'll ask Carl, see what he thinks about the depth. Because, I mean, that's the only thing I'm worried about is the depth. It's centered. So we got that. Okay, so I just gave Carl another ring. Let's see what he thinks on the depth. He said the depth was pretty good, or maybe even a little less. What he said was go 10 thou in either direction, and see which one you like, and then go 5 thou in either direction from that point, and then see which one you like. And yeah, we'll go from there. So we're just going to mess around, see if we can't get a pattern that's not too bad looking. But he said, yeah, that's about where you want it. So, okay. Time to tear this apart a couple more times. Alright, so this is what we're at. We went 10 deeper on the pinion. So, you know, you can see it's starting to get real sharp again. I don't like that pattern, so yeah, he was right. Definitely more on the too deep side. And this side's starting to get pushed in quite a lot. Alright, so now we see what that is. So now we're going to take 20 off, so we're basically going 10 in the other direction. And see what we get. Okay, so this is what it looks like when we go 10 in the other direction. So now if you notice, it's not looking all that great. It's really high, it's starting to get a real weird pattern to it. You know, this is not centered anymore, it's just all kinds of not good. So this tells us that we definitely need more depth. And it's amazing, this is only like, 10 thou difference. But it'll make quite a lot of difference. So now what I've been doing, mess with the depth, and then start messing with the, take a backlash pattern, then move some, take a backlash pattern, move some, take a backlash pattern. Alright, so I guess we were pretty spot on over here. This was a pretty good pattern, right around 45, so yeah. I don't know. I guess we're going to go basically back to what we were before. Maybe mess around 5 here, 5 there, and see what looks good. Okay, so here we are at 51 now. And if you notice, we're starting to get a little deep. Especially, you can tell it much easier on this side. So, interesting. Alright. So wow, we really did have it right on the money when we first started at like 47. Because now we're at 51. Got a backlash of 7. So yeah, alright, I think I'll probably take like 5 off. Like we were right on the money. Like 45's probably perfect. Alright, cool. I think we might be able to put real bearings on soon. Oh boy. Okay, so here we are at 45 depth and 6 backlash. I don't know. I'm getting tired of this. I think I'm happy with that. So we're basically back where we started a couple hours ago. I got it perfect the first time. Let's put the real bearing on the pinion. Screw it. We're going for broke. Alright. So we got our new bearing. Make sure it's facing the right direction. Got our shims. Don't forget those. And we press. So I got these staggered, so hopefully they support the bearing a little better. Oh yeah, nice and smooth, real easy. Just the way I like it. Cool. So now, after we get our pattern that we kind of like, it says to set the preload for the final install. So we use our 0.450 thou preload spacer, which is going to replace a crush sleeve from the factory. Mine only measured 439, but that goes on here. And then it says to add approximately 100 thou on that. So one pack right here, we got 3 12s, a 20, and a 17. So that's what, 10, 50, 60, 70, only 70 thou, but he does give me 2 shim packs. So I guess I'll do what the instructions say and put 100 thou on top of that. Okay, so since it sounds like it wants us to have 550 thou, here's 550 thou. Stack that on there. We have to torque the nut down to like, what, 225? Oh lord, kill me. Where's that bleeping Jeep yoke install tool when you need it, right? And we're looking for 14 to 19 inch-pounds of bearing preload. And I'll show you how you measure that in a second. But it's weird because some of the websites say more, up to like 20 or 30. Let's see what we get. So that bad boy goes right on here. Okay, so now we install it and see what happens. You're supposed to torque this thing down to something stupid like 225 foot-pounds. I don't know how the hell I'm supposed to do that. So I'm just going to give her some good old ooga doogas and see if she gets tight. So we're going to check the preload with this guy, inch-pound torque wrench, and it's a bar style. You spin it and you'll see. We're going to put this together. So I've given that thing as much as she'll suffer. Now we take this guy, slop it on there, and then what you do is you spin this thing, and you want to look for the resistance while it's spinning. So if you notice right now we're kind of like the low 20s, maybe 25, go back the other way. It helps to have clean bearings. You want to try and keep your movements smooth. So we're about 25 inch-pounds. I forget if we want more or less. I'm going to check his directions. I feel like his directions are low, and the stuff I read on the internet is high. That's actually pretty good starting preload right there. Not too bad. If we saw this guy right here, Crawlpedia, it says that the Dana 44, like the regular one, is 14 to 19, but for the JK it's 22 to 35. So which one do you listen to, eh? I don't know, I'm kind of happy with where it's at. Everything seems pretty good, so... Okay, so as you can see here, the numbers change drastically depending on how much you move. I only have like increments of like 12, 17, and 21. So we started with 551 and got 23. And when I just put it back together again, it was closer to 30. So when you spin it around, it changes. I don't know, you gotta spin it for a while. So I took 12 off. That wasn't working. I couldn't even tighten it anywhere close, and it was too tight. So then I changed some around, so I just removed 5. I took a 17 away and added a 12, and that was like 50 plus. So yeah, that's a huge change. So adding 5 shims dropped it like 20 inch-pounds. It's ridiculous. I would need to go in like 1 intervals, 1 thou, in order to get what I want. So we lucked out right the first time at 551. That's what we got. So fuck it, good to go. We're gonna put the seal in. We're gonna put the proper nut in, and the pinion is done. Yeah. Brownie points. We're gonna put some black RTV on the inside bore, even though our seal has some. Well, extra never hurt nobody. So So we're going to put that in. We're going to put some thread locker on our new nut. You can tell it's new because it's got the stake-ons. It's supposed to be able to hold it better. And I guess we'll use our little crush washer, or thrust washer, too. Little thread lock, too. Might as well. Screw it, we'll go all in, baby. We're going to slap that together, put this guy in here. We got to give it the old tappy tap tap routine. See how she do. And a thin coating, real thin. This is one of the stranger seals I've had to deal with. Funny enough, the bearing, one of the bearings, I think it was one of the bearings fit on here perfectly. It went around the seal, and I could smack it in there and start it, because trying to work on a circle just wasn't working. I had to hit it all at once with a big old hammer. But the weird thing is, it kind of stopped at a certain point, and the flange stuck up. But if you kept hitting it, you could hear like a light tinging and then a loud tinging when it finally contacted. But the lip was actually bending over and around the housing. So there you go. I guess you get your pressed hammer fit with that. Yeah, that's something. All right. Cool. Make sure to oil up your seal. Put this guy on, that guy on, that guy on, and look at that, huh? For a little extra jam, I put some RTV on the back of the washer, so that way it seals up the splines too. So she's ooga-dooga on there as hard as I could get. Not bad. Cool. Now, I guess we'll spread the housing and put the carrier on like it should be. See what kind of pattern we get. So this is a case spreader. So those two big old pins that are over here, these guys fit right on now, like so. And what this giant thing does is it actually opens the case up so that we can get in there. Now, you can't stretch these more than 10 thou. So we had our dial indicator set up, we had it zeroed, and all you do is open this up until that reads 10 thou. So hopefully that works for us. Whatever, get your King Kong ding dong, crank her up. So that's what 10 thou looks like right there. It's backwards, but there it is. Alright, so now let's see what we can fit going on our way. Alright, we got Big Bertha spreading her legs over here. I put 6 thou extra on each side, and finally got the sucker crammed in there. I'm going to take the pressure off, take a final paint pattern, and see what we're working with. And of course we only got a backlash of 2. So, a little too tight. We're going to have to put it on again, take it apart, and we're going to move either 4 or 6 to the non-ring gear side. I'm not sure which I feel like doing. I can either be at 6 or I can be at 8. Should be 6 to 10, so maybe I'll shoot for 8. Alright, we'll move 6 over to the non-ring gear side. We should be good. So we've moved 6 thou over to the non-ring gear side, and that'll push it away so we can get more backlash. And the fun part. Try to avoid sticking your fingers in the bearings at all costs, because when this thing slips, it hurts like a bitch. around 7 or 8. Right down 8. Okay, beautiful. Now we got our backlash, we got our preload. Time for the paint pattern, yeah. Okay, so we move 6 over to the non-ring gear side. Now we have our proper backlash of 8, right in the middle of 10 and 6. So here's the one side. Looking pretty good. And here's the back side right here. Not teabag at all, eh? Nice. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's fine. Got nice, good amount of preload on there. Got a nice pattern. I think we're done, son. We just got to torque down these guys to... I know it's usually 80. I don't know if it's something fancy on other ones. I guess since this is a standard Dana 44, it should be 80. So yeah, we'll torque that. For a regular Dana 44, the magic number is 60 foot-pounds. For the JK, it would be 80. But since this is, you know, this is all regular 44 stuff, that's 60. Give me that one, boom! And on that note, I think we're ready for shafts, baby. Ooh! Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, that should be everything for the Jana K4 kit. That's how you put gears in. It's a pain in the ass. You pull it apart a billion times, and you're messing with fucking thousandths of an inch shims, and it's, oh man, it's great. But hey, you can say that you've saved yourself hundreds by switching to doing your own work. Yeah! Alright, now we gotta break it in for 500 miles and change the Earl.